Hello and thanks for joining us for this edition of France in Focus, coming to you from the city of Lyon, where the world-famous Fête des Lumières, or Festival of Lights, is currently in full swing. Well, as you can see, every corner of this vast square is lit up with colourful installations. So how is it that France's third largest city came to host such an event which today draws millions of people? Well, let's start by taking a look at the history.
When the festival first began, candles were used to symbolise the victory of light over darkness. Lyon's Fête des Lumières is a tradition that goes back centuries. Initially frowned upon by the church, it was later adopted into the Christian calendar.
It's a light, it's symbolic. A light that reflects the light that we have inside us.
In the mid-19th century, Lyon's Fauvière church collapsed, and the authorities decided to rebuild the bell tower on a grander scale, with a statue of the Virgin Mary looking out over Lyon. The inauguration was set to take place on the 8th of September for Mary's Nativity. But after the city flooded in the autumn of 1852, it was pushed back to the 8th of December, the Feast of the Immaculate Conception.
They had to wait 3 months for the rain to stop, for the river to go back to normal, so they could place the statue of the Virgin Mary on the bell tower. That's when the bishop decided that, as they missed the September 8th deadline, they would inaugurate the statue on the 8th of December. And that evening, all of the local residents took to the streets with candles, believers because their bishop demanded it, and the rest because it was the Festival of Light.
Fast forward to the end of the 20th century, and the tradition is still going strong. But to revitalize the city, the mayor, Michel Noir, introduced Le Plan Lumières, illuminating 250 monuments every night of the year. Now a glitzy spectacle, the Fête des Lumières is one of France's biggest cultural events.
Little by little, it's evolved. Lanterns have been replaced by LEDs and laser beams. Today, we're seeing economic benefits. Hotels are booked up every year, and restaurants too. The Fête des Lumières isn't just on the 8th December anymore, it's over 4 consecutive days.
Today, the Fête des Lumières has outgrown its humble origins. The festival attracts around 3 million visitors each year.
Okay, so that was a look at the history of the Fête des Lumières. Well, let's turn our eye now to the present day, and I'm joined now by one of the leading lights of this event, Patrice Warner. Let's, just before we start, have a look at your creation. Wow. Okay, that changes the theatre here in Lyon quite considerably. Tell us a little bit about your creation, what it represents.
Well, it's quite a simple idea. The goal is to showcase the architecture through the use of color. So each architectural detail was coupled with different colors, according to its size, its shape, etc.
You've been working on this event for many years now. How do you keep updating your techniques? Is the technology changing a lot?
The technology has changed, yes, but it's more the level of experience that has evolved. Learning how to work with the different colors, for instance. It's a little bit like music, how we learn to play music. Instead, we learn how to play with color and contrast, an aesthetic endeavor with the goal of finding harmony and even a certain credibility. The theatre could have been painted this way.
If somebody asks you what's your job title when you make things like this, what do you actually tell them?
What can I say? I'm a painter.
Je suis un peintre, voilà.
So how do you go about putting on an event on this scale? Well, to tell me the answer to that question, I'm joined now by the artistic director of the Fête des Lumières here in Lyon. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Jean-François Zuravic. Just start by telling me a little bit more about what your role has been.
My role is to coordinate the artistic programming, but it's also to work with security services,
and with the sponsors and donors who finance this event.
Qui permettent, des mécènes qui permettent de financer cet événement.
You mentioned security, and of course here in France these days, all big events have a huge security presence. What have you done specifically to make sure that this event goes off safely?
Ce qu'on fait, c'est
What we do is to make sure that no cars or trucks can get into the delimited area so that it's totally safe.
D'une voiture ou d'un camion fou.
But to do so, we've had to reduce the event's perimeter.
Le périmètre de l'événement, nous n'avons
It's no longer possible to include all of the city's neighborhoods, especially those that are far from the center.
plus éloigné du centre-ville.
Is there one particular event or one particular installation that stands in your mind as being particularly memorable during these last 15 years?
J'ai plusieurs.
There have been a few exceptional moments. I'll tell you an anecdote. It was Place des Jacobins, which has a very beautiful 19th century fountain.
19e. Et on l'avait transformé.
An artist named Christophe Mayer transformed the plaza into a child's bedroom. The fountain itself had been turned into a nightstand and a lamp. When you walked into the plaza, you heard a sort of lullaby, a song you would sing to bring a child or a baby to sleep. For me, that kind of transformation, turning the buildings and architecture into an object in the city, that is really the best of the Festival of Lights.
And of course the Fête des Lumières brings something to Lyon, doesn't it? It must really bring huge benefit to the city of Lyon, financial benefits as well, I'd imagine.
Well, of course there are financial benefits for hotels, restaurants, businesses that participate in the event. There are some 400 to 500 people from Lyon who take part in the preparations. But it's clearly an event that attracts many tourists. As things are right now, with the security measures, we have close to 2 million tourists expected in Lyon this year over the span of those 4 nights.
Okay, and you've done something amazing with this festival. You've managed to export it to other countries. Just tell us where else we can see the Fête des Lumières.
For
the past few years, we have indeed been asked to export our expertise and our artistic programming to create light festivals elsewhere. Recently, we were in Quito, Ecuador. We were there twice. We also went to Montreal to co-direct a light festival there in February. And more recently, about 10 days ago, I was in Hong Kong where we created their first light festival.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for sharing that with us, Jean-François Zuravic. Thank you so much again. Well, that is where we're going to take you now, to Hong Kong, to check out the Fête des Lumières, which was held there.
Hong Kong transformed into a canvas for some of the world's most distinguished light installations. Modeled after the famous Fête des Lumières in Lyon, Hong Kong is hosting its first light festival this December. Strike the Dragon, the opening attraction modeled after a popular carnival game, was one of this year's favorites.
I think we really nailed it this year because we've got a very playful public. The concept was created for the Lyon Light Festival and was later adapted for the Dubai Light Festival. Now it's been readapted for Hong Kong with this tunnel that represents a dragon's body.
Now, the Lyon Light Festival's most popular artists enjoy international recognition. Yves Moreau has been a part of the Lyon Light Festival for the past 5 years, allowing him to develop notoriety which has now brought him to Hong Kong. In order to be selected, artists must submit an application detailing their proposed projects.
You have to be able to seduce, to have a coherent project and respect a certain budget.
120 light installations from the Lyon Light Festival were selected for Hong Kong, amounting to 5 million euros in revenue. The most popular installations, the now famous Anuki.
The first time we submitted our piece in Lyon, we thought we would only do it once, thinking afterwards it would be stored in our archives. But it became a real success, so we do 2 to 3 shows per year.
Exporting the Light Festival to such a vast territory among skyscrapers that already illuminate the city is no easy task. But this year's success seems to have been well worth the risk.
Well, that is all we have time for this week's edition of France in Focus. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I'll see you again soon here on France 24.